Hi, my name is Kevin Mullen. Today I'll be showing you how to operate the Nanoduct patient simulator and along with the Nanoduct. Before I start showing you that, I want to discuss the patient simulator and what we use it for. It should only be used maybe a few times a year for proficiency testing, or whenever there's unknown samples that need to be ran, sweat samples that are collected by another means that they want to be tested on the Nanoduct. It's a way to introduce the sweat samples and heat this sensor cell like it would be on an arm of a patient. The patient simulator should never be used as a way to calibrate the Nanoduct. The electronic calibration that comes with the Nanoduct is much more accurate, and this is what should be used for a day-to-day basis of calibrating the Nanoduct. Okay, to begin with, we'll turn on the patient simulator. There's a switch on the back of the patient simulator. The patient simulator can be used with a plug, AC power, or two 9-volt batteries can be added to the bottom of the patient simulator and be used with batteries. You just turn on the switch. This light will come on whenever there's power. This light will illuminate when it's heated up to the temperature that we need it to be. And so right now that takes just a few seconds to get up to temperature. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and calibrate the Nanoduct. So the Nanoduct should be on with the arrow pointing towards check controls. And press enter. And to calibrate, I put the measurement electrode connector onto the calibration plate and verify that that reads 80. Right now it is reading 80. Out of good measure, I always like to select down to calibrate and press calibrate anyways. Again, that takes just a few seconds to calibrate to the value of 80. While I'm doing this, I can also check these other references. So this is the 60 and verify it's reading 60. Go to the 40 and verify that's reading 40. And go to the 120 and verify that it's reading 120. So now the Nanoduct's been calibrated. I'll go ahead and move this case out of the way. And the patient simulator, you can see now the ready light is illuminated, and it means that it's up to temperature. So now it's ready to load a sensor cell and a sample. In order to operate the patient simulator, I will first exit out of the check controls menu on the Nanoduct. So exit out, and I'll go past the iontophoresis down to sweat controls. So I press select until the arrow is at sweat controls and press enter. And I typically like to display the reading when I'm running the patient simulator. So I'll go ahead and press enter now for display reading. Now the Nanoduct is waiting for a sweat sample. What I need to do is I take a fresh sensor cell and open it out of its package. Okay, put the sensor cell into the measurement electrode connector, or the sensor cell connector. Each sensor cell has a small hole where the sweat will exit. When using the patient simulator, you want that hole pointing down, and so you put that hole so it's in line with the cable. It is possible to put it the other way, but you always want that hole so it's in line with the cable. So you plug it in like that. You lift up this part of the patient simulator. Before I put in the collector, I'm going to put in one of these waste pads. It's just a small circular dot made of filter paper, and that will collect any liquid that drains out of the Nanoduct sensor cell. So you put that right there, dry, and you'll put the sensor cell like this. Now this part's a little tricky to hold that down and bring the top down on top of it. You usually hold it with the cable like that and put the top down. Then with 2 fingers you push down and use this lever to lock it in place. So now it's locked in place. And at this point, I always like pressing the reset button. The Nanoduct patient simulator has a timer, a 10-minute timer that will turn off the heating element every 10 minutes after you press reset. So I like pressing reset just so that that timer will reset to 10 minutes. Now I need to introduce my sample. So I take a piece of tubing, connect that to a 1 cc syringe, a blunt needle, connect it like so, and then you take your liquid sample. Today I'll use our sweat controls. The sweat controls reference SS150, the level 1, level 2, and level 3 controls. And so I have a level 1 control right here. I'll use the ampule breaking sleeve to break off the top. And then with the tubing, I like to start with the plunger out a little bit so I have a little air gap in the syringe. Put the tubing down into the ampule and pull back on the plunger, and so you get some liquid into the tubing. Right now my liquid goes from about right here with my fingers to about right there. Here on the patient simulator we kind of give you a guide of how much liquid is needed. So as long as it's wider than the width of the patient simulator, I have enough liquid. So I'm going to put the end of the tubing onto the nipple of the patient simulator like that. I'm going to slowly inject the liquid. I always follow the back of the liquid to see how much progress I'm making. So I'm injecting it slowly. Right now it's right there. Okay, now you can see the Nanoduct beeped and gave me some readings. Right now it's a reading of 35, and jump to 36, and that is just like the Nanoduct got sweat from a patient, but in this case it's with the simulator. Once it gets some measurements, you let the liquid sit in the sensor cell, and with the hemostats you pinch off the tubing like so. You do that because as the sensor cell gets warmer and the liquid expands, it can flow back out of the sensor cell and back into the tubing. So we use that hemostat to prevent that backflow. So right now it's still reading 34. And just like any other Nanoduct reading, it will take 8 minutes before it gives you your final result. Typically that reading won't change a lot. It may change 1 or 2 values. So you just kind of verify that that reading is what you expect for the sample. So the reading is still progressing, and it's at the reading is 34. For this sweat control level 1, for this particular lot, the sheet on the product insert says that it should be 33 plus or minus 3. So we're right there, exactly what we expect for a conductivity reading, plus 1 value. That's perfectly suitable. I know I could let this go for the entire 8 minutes. I know the average will be 34. And so at this time, I'll just stop it by turning the Nanoduct off. Just turn the Nanoduct off. And now I need to remove the sensor cell. So the first thing to do is to disconnect the hemostats, open the lid, so you push down a little bit, push that lever, and the sensor cell comes out. So these sensor cells are disposable. They should never be reused. This sensor cell has sweat control in it now. It's impossible to remove and know that all of it has been removed. So that sensor cell needs to be discarded. We supply these little plastic tweezers to help you remove the waste pad. That gets a little wet. Use some applicator sticks with cotton to clean up any liquid that might be around here. Okay, make sure it's good and dry for the next sample. So right now, I'll now remove the tubing, but inside of the patient simulator is a small amount of tubing that is full of liquid, so we need to remove that. We remove that by using this little cleaner adapter and a fresh piece of tubing. So I put the tubing onto this cleaner adapter and I put that in place right here. Again, that's a little bit difficult, so I hold onto the tubing and push it back, close the lid and lock it in place. And then with a larger syringe, this is a 10 cc syringe, I pump air through that cleaner adapter and that tubing, and you'll see the liquid come out of the nipple right here. So I'll connect this syringe to the tubing so it's connected, and I push the sample out. Do that a few times. Make sure it comes out as dry as possible. Okay. Another thing I do is you want to run water at the end of the day. You want to run water through this adapter to make sure all the sweat control is pushed out. In between samples, you don't necessarily need to run water. So if I wanted to run another sample right now, I'd go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll turn the Nanoduct back on. I'll get a fresh sensor cell. I'll connect. Again, you take the sensor cell, find the exit hole, line up the exit hole so it's in line with the cable, and connect it like so. Get a waste pad. Okay. Put the sensor cell in, lock it in place. On the Nanoduct, I'll select down to sweat analysis and press enter. Display reading and press enter. Now it's waiting for sample. So this time, I'll take the level 3 sweat control. Okay, get all the liquid down into the ampule. Oh, break it open. Okay, take my blunt needle with a fresh piece of tubing. Connect the fresh piece of tubing to my 1 cc syringe. Uptake the sample. Make sure I get enough sample. Okay. One thing I forgot to do, you can see the lights are now off. I forgot to press restart. So I'll press restart, and wait for that ready light to come on. You can see it didn't take very long because it was close to temperature already. Connect the tubing to the nipple like so. Introduce the sample. Okay, Nanoduct recognized it. Again, I'll close off the tubing with the hemostats. Okay, right now the initial reading was 128, and for this lot of level 3 sweat control, it should be 128 plus or minus 10. So again, we're right where we should be for conductivity, and we can let that value go and see if it changes. Again, it won't change very often, so typically at this point I will just turn it off and clean out the patient simulator. So let's let it run for a little bit and verify it will stay at 128. Okay, we're back. We've been testing the level 3 sweat control in the Nanoduct. It's almost at the 8-minute mark. Right now it's reading 131, so it did increase from 128 slightly, but it's still within the range. The value should be 128 plus or minus 10. When it's completed, it does say the final value came out to be 130. So that would be the value that you would report on any proficiency testing for the Nanoduct, and say an unknown sample would be the 130 in this case, or what the final value comes out to be. So if you want, you can press recall reading on the Nanoduct and see that final value of 130 as well. So when we're finished, we just turn the Nanoduct off, take out the sensor cell, like so, remove the tubing and the hemostats, like so. Okay, so now it's at the end of the day. We're going to clean up the patient simulator. So remove the waste pad. Sometimes it's a little stubborn to come out. There we go. Okay, remove the waste pad. Take your applicator stick and dry it well. Okay. The cleaning adapter, put that in, lock it in place. Take your 10 cc syringe or larger and use that to blow out any remaining liquid inside of the patient simulator. So you see that comes out of that nipple. Push air through a few times, like so. Okay, now at the end of the day, I like running water through it, and so this time I will take the tubing with the 1 cc syringe. I have some water right here in a beaker. I'll bring that, a little bit of water, about the same amount of water that you use for sweat. Connect that here to the cleaning adapter. Lock that in place and run that through. Sometimes I like to connect another piece of tubing to the nipple so that you don't get a big puddle of water right at the base of the patient simulator. So you just run that through until you start seeing it come out of the tubing, which is right now. I'll maybe move the plunger back and forth a little bit to move that water, make it a little bit turbulent inside to clean out any sweat control that might be left there. And then at the end, just push it all the way through. And then take your 10 cc syringe again and push air through quite a few times. Make sure it's nice and dry. If it's not dry, there's the potential that water droplets could contaminate the next sample that's introduced and cause it to be a little bit low. So run a bunch of air through the system, maybe 4, 5, 6 times. When that's finished, you can remove the cleaning adapter and the tubing. If you see any liquid left over right here, just kind of clean it up. And then we're completed. And so again, on behalf of LA Tech Biomedical Systems, I'd like to thank you for your attention and all of your diligence out using the patient simulator and the Nanoduct. And Please let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Thank